A little advice. A little advice. Come on, come on, come on, yeah. Just a little advice. Just a little advice with Christine Little. Check it out.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Little Advice Podcast, a podcast where I, comedian Christine Little, gives a little advice to one of my guests. This is episode number 31 with a very impressive guest. Her name is Morissa Schwartz. She's a writer, an entrepreneur, a Guinness World Record holder, and she owns Dr. Rissy's writing and marketing. This chick is so impressive. She's in her early 20s and she wrote like 2 books while she was in high school, and then she started her own publishing company. And if you want to feel lazy, she's a really great person to listen to. She talks to me about her struggles transitioning from being a freelancer to delegating to a team. So I give her some advice on that. Podcast related, if you want to talk more about the episodes, please head over to Facebook and join the Little Advice Podcast group, or feel free to direct message me on Instagram. I am at @thexteenlittle. If you like this episode, please rate, sub, review, and share if you know anyone who could benefit from listening to this. I appreciate it so much. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. And without further ado, here's episode number 31 with Morissa Schwartz. Thank you so much for listening to A Little Advice. With Morissa Schwartz. Hello, Morissa.
Hello, how are you, Christine?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
Awesome.
And you're coming to us all the way from New Jersey, right? I said that right?
You did say that correctly. Very few people do, but that is the correct enunciation.
You're funny. So, Morissa, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Well, I am in the 6th generation of my family to live in New Jersey, and a lot of people are like, why? I like it. I like our diners. But I'm somebody who is kind of a natural born entrepreneur. I started selling stuff on eBay when I was 8. I would sell Mighty Beans and those little toys with the magnets in them. They have little faces on them. So I started selling those because I wanted to get more Mighty Beans. So I would sell the old ones for new ones. And that experience, as weird as it sounds, got me into really enjoying doing work and business and things online like that. Because I grew up in my parents' mom and pop carpet shop. So I guess I always had that kind of knowledge of what it's like to be in a family business or in a small business. And I wanted to start my own. So in college, a week after I graduated, actually, I started a book publishing company that is still going. It's Gen Z Publishing, and we do different book events. We've published about 70 books in the past 3 years. And then I started my marketing company, Dr. Rissy's writing and marketing, and it's just awesome. I love being able to work from anywhere. Before we actually started on the show, Christine and I were talking briefly, and she's like, "Are you outside?" Because I work outside when the weather's nice, because in Jersey it's pretty rare to have a nice weather day. So when we do, I take advantage of it. So I currently am completing my doctorate in literature at Drew University. That's another little aside. And then some just weird factoids that people usually go, wait, what? Because they read in my bio. I broke a Guinness World Record. I broke the world record for breaking the world's longest chain of bracelets. So that's just a weird fact. And,
for breaking the longest chain, or making the longest chain of bracelets?
Oh, yeah, so I broke the record for making the world's longest chain of bracelets. Yes.
Oh, yeah, that's totally different. I thought you, there was a long chain of bracelets and then you broke it. You're like, take that. I was like, wow, this girl's gangster.
Everywhere.
Well, oh, my God, Morissa, listening to you, I feel like such a lazy piece of crap. So if that was your goal, congratulations. Wow, I'm amazed. So 8 years old, you're on eBay selling stuff.
Yeah, and it's funny because that was when I had my first PayPal. So a lot of my team, I pay them through PayPal, and they're like, "How do you use PayPal?" And I'm like, "I'm sorry, it's second nature. I've been using it since I was 8 years old. I don't realize wait, you didn't have a PayPal when you were a kid? What? That's so weird."
So funny. It's like a generation. Well, you're Generation Z, right? So you're a little younger than me, barely, I'm sure. But yeah, I didn't grow up with a PayPal account, but I definitely still use PayPal. What made you get into the publishing then? in college?
Yeah, so in college, I had well, actually, I'll back up even further. In high school, I self-published a book, and it was about entering contests like world record contests and stuff. So I wrote that book and I self-published it, and people didn't really make that big of a deal because they're like, oh, you self-published it, anybody could do that. And I'm like, gosh darn it, I thought people would like be, oh wow, you're an author, that's so cool. Like I couldn't get into Barnes & Noble, I couldn't do any of the things I really wanted to do because it was self-published. So I came up with a goal for myself. I wanted to have a book traditionally published, so I did that. I got it traditionally published, which traditional publishing is one heck of a headache. So I had the book traditionally published in college, got to do the Barnes & Noble readings and all that, but realized, man, traditional publishing kind of stinks. Like there are so many issues with query letters and them just treating you poorly because, you're not, unless you're Stephen King or Kim Kardashian, traditional publishers really don't treat their authors very nicely. So I wanted to create my own book publishing company where we would treat our authors nicely, and also where we would publish by authors who weren't Stephen King or Kim Kardashian, like new authors with something innovative to say. Like I loved indie movies and indie music. I always think that there's a lot of refreshing aspects to them. They have fresh takes. And I thought we could do that with books, like have an independent book publisher. And a lot of independent book publishers, though, they're what are called vanity publishers, where they charge their authors to publish their books. Mm-hmm. And that's not cool either. So I made this it's like traditional publishing where we don't charge our authors. In fact, we pay for their stuff like cover creation, editing, and all that. So it's just the whole thing of having the authors in mind.
Dude, that's so badass. You're an indie publishing place. So you saw a problem and you were like, okay, well, I can do it better. I'm going to go out and make something myself. Yeah. So I really, really admire that. So how can people how do you find your authors? Do they just submit and you guys go through a process with them, or?
Yeah, that's how we do it now. When I started out, though, like nobody knew what Gen Z Publishing was. It was literally a company that I started in my parents' basement. So and I had no marketing budget. I went to the bank and said like, hey, can I get a loan? They were like, no, you're a teenager. Get out of here. Wow. So I said, all right, well, I need to figure out a way to promote us without having any budget whatsoever. And I had social media at my disposal. So I used Twitter to find authors who are posting with the hashtag #amwriting and different hashtags like that. And just kind of said, hey, I'm starting something new. If you're interested in submitting a manuscript, reach out. And a lot of them did. It was really cool. So that was how we got maybe our first 20 authors, just from me going on Instagram and Twitter and reaching out to authors who were like trying to get published, or who I saw, had like a blog or something and saying, hey, you should submit your whole manuscript to us. And that was, and now people pretty much find us through query letters, word of mouth, and events.
Jeez Louise, man, I wouldn't even know in high school. I wouldn't even think to take on a venture that huge and then to just troubleshoot it, or even know to go to a bank to ask for a loan. So do you think having your parents as business owners helped, or yeah, my father actually was the one who recommended. He said, I don't think they're gonna go for it, but try it. What's the worst that can happen? And the worst that could happen happened. They said, literally, it was like a 2-minute meeting. I made a whole business plan, everything else. I was really excited. I had it in the binder. I'm like, this is gonna be great. And the woman was like, she asked 3 questions, and they were just basically about my credit history and things like that. Like I had never had a credit card or anything, right. And it was just pretty much like, sorry, there's nothing we can do for you. So, but yeah, that was how I came up with that, and that was how I knew to make a business plan. My father said, make a business plan, and I said, what is that? And he said, Google it. So I Googled it, figured it out, and then he recommended contacting the Small Business Association and the Women's Small Business Association. So I got in touch with them, got a coach, and yeah. Wow, I am super impressed. So, and going into what your problem is, I don't know if I'll be able to help you. It sounds like Google can really do it for you, but let's take a shot. What's your problem?
So my problem is, I was creating the book publishing company. I was also doing freelance work on the side, because the book publishing, it's always been something of a passion project. It's not something that could supplement a full-time job. So I started doing freelance work while in high school. I started out freelance editing people's work, articles, things like that. Then I got into running people's social media. And before I knew it, by the time I was in college, I was having a lot more clients than I could support. And a lot of people, when they get to that point, they say like, oh man, you know what? I'm just going to start turning down clients now because I don't have enough hands. I can't do all this work for them. But I didn't want to do that. Like if somebody's coming to me to help them in their business, I don't want to turn them down. So I said, okay, I personally can't do all these things, but if I had a team, if I had an assistant, I could help them. So I brought on an assistant, and the assistant had a different skill set than me. So she knew Pinterest. I knew nothing about Pinterest. She knew a lot more about Instagram hashtags than me. She knew about SEO. So she was kind of like my right hand, and we were able to serve double the clients because there were 2 people working. And I saw that that was really working out well. So I brought on another person. Here we are now in 2019, and now the team has grown to 16 people.
Wow.
And
congrats. That's amazing.
Thank you. Well, thank you. Yeah, that's cool, except I'm somebody who was a freelancer for 6 to 8 years, where it was really just me and maybe 1 or 2 other people. It was me for the first 6 years. And then from year 6 to 8, it was me and like 2 other people. But now I'm at the point where the team grew really fast. And it is difficult to make that transition from being a freelancer, having that mindset of, oh, I need to do this myself, to now, okay, I need to delegate this. I need to do this. So I hired a project manager, but I make the mistake of thinking, oh, the project manager's in my head. She knows everything that I'm thinking. She knows how to do that, but she has a completely different skill set. So part of my issue is thinking that everybody on my team is a mind reader. And, you know, I'll send them messages, not thinking they're cryptic, and then hear back and they'll be like, what does that mean? And I wind up just doing it myself, where, you know, there must be another way. So I think that my problem that I'm looking to have solved is pretty much, how do you change that mindset of going from a solopreneur to a team player? Because also, I'm an only child. I'm the type of person, when I did competitive dancing, I would do solo dancing. And I only did dance team 1 year. Like, I've always done everything on my own. I'm like, if you ever saw The Hangover, I'm a one-woman wolf pack. But I'm learning how to actually have a wolf pack and how to have a team. So that's where we are.
Well, it sounds like that is a definitely a new mindset and a new outlook to take on. So it sounds like you are transitioning from being a freelancer, working on your own, doing everything on your own, knowing what you need, to delegating and leading the charge of multiple people and not just yourself. And you're used to working for yourself, by yourself, independently, and not within a group. Is that right?
That is absolutely correct. And there's one other part to that. It's also the clients getting their mindset to change, because they have known working with Morissa and Sheila, but now there are other people in the mix. So it's getting them to, rather than constantly texting me about things, knowing, oh, I'm allowed to, you know, get in touch with this person or that person on the team. And that's a bit of a transition too, like, because then they're getting used to a new method.
So getting your clients acclimated to not just reaching out to you directly, but going to the team and kind of funneling that in.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. Wow. Yeah, that is a lot. Let's take an example. Let's break it down a little bit. Can you give me an example of what that looks like? Of going from the solo mindset to the group mindset. And we can start with the client situation, or we could start with delegating to a team member.
Yeah, I think that they'll kind of go hand in hand. So an example is, we have a new client who's been with us about 2 weeks. And she gave us 4 different accounts to manage, which was a lot at once, because when you get a new social media account, you have to verify it on your phone and your email and all these different things. So in my head, I know, okay, the first step to do is to verify the phone number, to hook it up to Buffer, then to create the first 2 weeks of posts, to do all these things. So in my head, that's common sense, right? But it's not to everybody. Everybody has their own method of doing it. So we just switched to Trello. Before then, I would just pretty much leave people voice messages like, okay, we have this new client, get them set up. Like, that's literally I would say. So I started setting up SOPs on Trello so that people knew what to do. But even then, I get a lot of questions. So I have
what's an SOP?
Oh, sorry. So the standard operating procedures.
Okay, great. Okay.
Yeah. Great. So basically, so that they know how to do what we're doing. So I even with the SOP on Trello, I put it up there and I just say, okay, do this. 3 days go by and I find out that the phone number was never verified. So there are no posts going out onto this client's Twitter.
God. Okay.
Yeah. So I check in, I go, what happened? They go, well, I never heard back about the verification. So, I'm just waiting to hear back from them. I go, but you have to verify it. Book a time with the client and verify it. Oh, really? I can do that? Yes, you should contact the client. Another day goes by. What happened? Oh, I still didn't hear back from the client. So I email the client myself. I hear back like right away. And I'm like, really? So just like little things like that where things kind of fall through the cracks, for one reason or another.
What happened? So they're reaching out to the client and was the client not responding, or did they reach out in a different kind of way? Or
yeah. So I think what happened was they reached out via email. I reached out via text message. I went to the client and said, what's your cell phone number? So I texted, and the text obviously went through quicker. But what was frustrating to me, I came up with that troubleshooting step to text the client, whereas that person just kept emailing the client over and over expecting a response. And I say, well, if it's not working, you need to figure out a way to tweak it and make it work. And they weren't doing it. So if it were up to them, we still probably wouldn't be posting on this client's account because we would still be quote unquote waiting for them. And you can't do that. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a problem. It sounds like this person's like they're feeling a little timid or less empowered. So when you have the different team members, are they all like little versions of you with different skill sets? Or do you have a person that's you said you had a project manager. Do you have like a sales team? Do you have like your people, like your social people?
I have a few social people, but a lot of them, their main strength is writing, because we started out, more as a writing focused company. So, writers tend to be timid by nature.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say about half of our group are introverts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So what I'm thinking here, just right off the top, would be to have, and I'm sure you already do a version of this where you have like an intake form with your clients and say, like, what's all your info? Best way to get a hold of you. Second best way to get a hold of you. This needs to be verified by this time. Can you do this? Or something like that. Do you have an intake form like that?
It's funny that you say that. I don't. I know people who do that. Somebody on my team, she would freelance a lot before she was working with us, and she did that, and she kind of recommended that. And I said, oh yeah, we'll do that. We never did it. That's a really great idea.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think all these little hiccups like that, what just happened is not to sound cliche, but like a blessing in disguise, because it gives you the opportunity before you grow even bigger to see where the missteps are.
Yeah.
And it gives you an opportunity to see where you can make things clearer. It's hard. I mean, it's hard to figure out like what people know and what they don't know. And it could be almost insulting to be like, did you do this? When you think it's obvious and they don't. So, but yeah, having like a protocol and the standard operating procedures. Like I remember I was working at this hotel in college and I worked the front desk, and this is a job, I don't think I've experienced this at any other job that I can remember, but they had like a checklist of what we were supposed to do, like from this time to this time and this time to this time. And I loved it because I knew I was doing my job and I was hitting everything. Like I'm the kind of person that loves like lists and like checking things off the list. So I knew that from this time to this time, I had to call around and get the comps and avails from the different hotels. And then I had to do this and do that. So I would definitely recommend having something like that for an onboarding procedure for your new clients.
Yeah, that's absolutely awesome.
And actually for your new employees. I don't know exactly what that would look like, but maybe it would be something like, how can we get a hold of you, or whatever, something like that.
Yeah, your hours. You know, it's funny because one of my very first clients was somebody who at 2 a.m. would call me all the time, and he would drive me nuts with that because he'd be like, this is an urgent thing. It needs to be done. And he would like, yeah. So I never want to do that to my team, but I found out, we're all in different time zones. About 80% of the team is in America, but I do have one person in Pakistan and one person in, actually 1.5 people in Venezuela, part-time and full-time. And the one person in Pakistan told me over the weekend, Morissa, just so you know, when you keep, texting me and calling me, it's at nighttime and, I'm getting really, really tired. I said, oh my gosh, I had no idea. And I realized I'm being that terrible client that I had. So I said, why don't you give me the times that work best for you? Like, I don't want to be that awful, person to work with. I literally had no idea.
Yeah. And you got to have boundaries like that with your clients too. I briefly did some freelancing for social media and I had 2 clients and they drove me so insane with the demands and like when they needed to talk and how like everything was like an emergency. And it was hard to like create those boundaries, but it's going to be best for both of you guys when you know what the expectations are on each end. Yeah. So I think that would be helpful too, to get their best working hours with, because everyone's allowed to have time off, especially like part of the cool thing about being a freelancer is having that flexibility and being like, we're on my time now. But then when someone keeps coming in and invading that and they don't know, it could be so stressful. And then there's like kind of like this low key resentment that starts to build. And you're like, what's your problem?
And I've seen it from both ends because I've seen it being a freelancer and kind of thinking like, I'm not an employee, you're making a lot of big demands of my time, but I don't actually say that. Like I never actually said, hey, these are my working hours. So how could you blame them if they are reaching out to you at an odd time? Whereas at the same time, I've done that to my people where, I'll be like, hey, this is urgent. Can you do this right now? Can you do this right now? And like, it's like, hey, that's not cool. We're in a freelance relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. And another thing that you could do is like, I don't know what kind of project management software you use, or if you use emails, or if you guys have a group thing, but like maybe there could, and I'm just thinking off the top of my head, there could be a system where you email and say, need a project thing updated now, who wants a bonus, or something where they collect points, and that cool. Sounds a little tedious because but who can do it the fastest gets this, or something like that, some sort of incentive, or who's available, and maybe it doesn't even need to have anything like that.
That's pretty cool. We currently use Trello. We switched from Zoho to Trello, which I'm actually pretty happy with Trello, but that's a really, really cool idea. And I am learning, like, I think of how I would like it, because again, I was in the position that everybody else is in where they're freelancers. Like I was in that position. I would have loved something like that, like a little bit of competitive, fun. So yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And then there's something else. And I think in terms of having people, since you did notice that a lot of the strengths of your I don't want to call them workers, but like your team is that they're writers and they're in a social thing, it might help to have like a good social head, or like a salesperson, the person that's going to be really great in talking with the clients and smoothing things over, because I think it can be intimidating when there's like a big personality that needs stuff right away. That person needs to be managed. And I think it can be hard from an introverted point of view, or a person who's not, you have the front of the house people and you've got the back of the house people. You know what I mean? So,
yeah, that is really true. That is one challenge I've had, because I've tried to find salespeople in the past and people to be on the phone. I haven't found very many. I don't know if it's because of the remote work, people who remote work, if they tend to be more introverted, or if I've just had bad luck. But I haven't found that many people who A, are comfortable being on the phone, and B, who want to do that kind of thing. But yeah, I think I just have to probably try harder to find those folks.
Yeah, it might be in a different realm than where you're finding your writers and other people. So it could be, there's whole jobs dedicated to having call centers. So those people are out there, and people would love that and thrive in that situation. Yeah. Okay, cool. So let's see, what do we got here? What are some takeaways that you have so far in terms of the problem of delegation? And what else can we talk about?
Yeah, a lot of the time I will just say, oh, well, it's going to be easier for me to just do it rather than delegating. I might as well just do it myself. But that doesn't actually solve the problem, because then the next time the problem happens, the next time it happens, the next time it happens, it's going to be the same thing that's going to keep happening. So, I think it's probably just better to kind of document the process so that you don't have to keep doing it over and over and over.
I think that's a really, really great point. The process. And it seems like are you still in the trenches? Are you still doing the work, like having your own clients?
Not really. It's mostly overseeing the work, but I do take a lot of client calls. So, today, for example, since 9 o'clock, so 9 o'clock to 3 o'clock, I was on calls with clients, just kind of going over creative ideas, their analytics, all that. So I'm still in the trenches as far as doing phone calls with clients every single day. And in between those calls, I'm also supposed to be checking over the team's work. So I check over the work as well. That's very, very time consuming. Yeah.
The checking over the work or the phone calls, or both?
Really, trying to juggle both of them. If I were just doing, the calls, that you can't really negotiate with. You're just, on the phone. But so that's very, very time consuming. Checking over the work is not as time consuming, but it's still pretty darn time consuming.
Yeah, it seems like what's happening is that you're moving out from being the freelancer, like you said earlier, and you're more of the overseer, which is a completely different skill. Yeah. Are you getting any training and coaching in that area?
Only my father. My father is an amazing asset. So he does a lot of that, but at the same time, my father is the type of person that he saw I had the 4-Hour Work Week on my desk, and it's one of my favorite books ever. And it's not because it's not necessarily though because I want to have a 4-hour work week. I do enjoy working. It's just, I think he gives a lot of great tips in there, and he sees the title. He goes, "That's for lazy people. Why are you reading that?" He's the type of person that works 7 days a week. He used to work 12-hour days. He works really, really, really hard. So to him, delegation, he thinks should only be done like when absolutely necessary. Otherwise, it's kind of like, well, why can't you do the work? Do it,
So that's a dangerous mindset, because you're not serving the company or the clients when you do that. And you're thinking, the last episode I had with Jennifer S. Royal. She's a magician and a motivational speaker and a coach. And she brought up that people who are rich, they delegate more, they outsource more, and that gives them more energy and time to think on the business instead of being in the business and doing it, because it's a totally different mindset. So your dad, tell him he's being lazy. I wouldn't say he's being lazy, but that could be like kind of a block where you're not seeing how much bigger you could grow and how in different ways that you could serve. You're kind of putting blinders on there, and you're a worker bee and not the queen bee.
I think he does get that. But at the same time, it's definitely a different. He does, I would say, a little bit of a hybrid where he has plenty of his own workers as well. He understands the importance of a team, and he knows my team, and he gets that. He's not saying, "Oh, you should be doing all the work," but at the same time, he is a little bit. So here's a good example. I have people who clean my house, and my parents are very against that. They think you should do that yourself. It builds character. But I say, I would rather spend my time working on my business than cleaning the house or doing the laundry. So it's that mindset.
Yeah. I think it could be like a generational thing too, because it seems like such a luxury, but now we're in an age where we get things instantly, and it's not some of the perks that we get are not like just for the rich now. Like everyone can have them, everyone can have their own driver or like food delivered or whatever. They're basically their own little chauffeurs. So it's not as expensive and I don't know, bougie. Okay. All right. So easier to do it myself. And so you're going to document the process as you go through that every time that comes up, and then have like, okay, what about your right-hand person? Can they take care of the training for you?
So I have kind of two right-hand people, And the one right-hand person is so new. She's been here about a month, and I threw so much at her, and she's still kind of learning the initial processes. So I think in time, she will be able to do that, but at this point, she's still too new. And then the other right-hand person, he is incredible. He's been with us for about a year, but he's going back to school. So he's still going to be working with us, but his hours are going to be cut because, it's been his dream to be an accountant for years and years. So he's doing that, and we're getting less and less of him. So that makes things tough too. And that's the other thing with having a team. There are so many unpredictable factors, people's lives changing. I just had somebody who moved, and we lost her for a few days. Somebody else whose computer broke, so we had to wait for her to get a new computer in. Just so many little unpredictable factors like that.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That is a lot. And that's why it's good to have continuing to build your roster of people. And then it would be great too if you could have a person that was in charge of people.
Right. Well, that's what the new right hand that I hired about a month ago is going to be doing. At this point, she's still on training wheels. So with time, though, I think she'll be doing that. Okay, cool. Well, it sounds like you've thought about that at least. I have. Yeah. I think there could probably be a bit more. That's the other thing. A bit more organization. I'm not the most organized person, so I bring this new person on, and like I said, I just expect her to be a mind reader and to know how to do everything. So it's tough taking a step back and going, oh, okay, she wouldn't know how we do that or that. What have you done to help with that, the mind reading, to be more transparent? Well, number one, my father started kind of talking with me, and he just said, slow down. You go so fast. I'm like a motor mouth. I just go so fast and expect people to know. But I started using Loom videos to show people how to do things. So they're basically little tutorials to say, okay, this is how we do this, this, and this. Try getting people to watch those videos. So that's a different story. And then I started having the team create the SOPs, kind of detailing everything that they do, so that if we ever have somebody filling in or, somebody new, they can say, oh, okay.
Hi, guys, and thanks again for listening to the Little Advice Podcast. If you're having a good time, please rate, subscribe, share, and leave a review. It'll help more people find the podcast, and guess what? That's pretty cool. If you'd like to see me do comedy in person, well, guess what? Okay, I'll tell you. I am on the TV Fameless tour right now with two really funny comics, Sophia Alexandra and Hannah Hogan. We're going to be at Pivo Sports Bar in Mill Creek, Washington on the 20th. We're going to be in Spokane, Washington on the 21st. And Riverside Golf Course in Chehalis, Washington on the 23rd. And we would love to see you. If you are having a great time, again, please leave a review. And thanks again for listening to We are back several moments later. I am here with Morissa Schwartz. Hello, Morissa.
Hello, Christine.
It's been such a pleasure talking to you and hearing. I mean, it's so inspirational. I mean, you seem very young. I don't know how old you are, but to have accomplished all that you've accomplished and to have your own business and to even have a successful freelancing business, and then now you have your own team and you've published books. I mean, I'm very impressed, Morissa.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. So, when you said you wrote a few books. You've got one book that you did when you were in high school. And then you told me that you and your mom wrote a book together, and you've published a few books with your own company. What is your process like in terms of coming up with a book idea and then taking that into implementation?
Well, all my books, with the exception of the children's ones, they have been nonfiction. Mm-hmm. I like to read nonfiction. I like to write nonfiction, which is kind of funny because I am getting my doctorate in literature. So if anybody should like fiction, it should be me. But I don't know. I prefer at least writing nonfiction. So the process is usually finding a topic that I find enjoyable enough to write at least 150 pages on. So right now I'm working on my dissertation, And come up with the topic for that, forget it. That was a really tough process. But usually it's something that I'm spending a lot of time on. It's almost like writing an SOP. So when I did the book on contests, or then I wrote a book about writing, or then I wrote a book about digital entrepreneurship, all those things were things that I was working on in my personal life that, I did every day that didn't seem that odd to me, but I knew would seem odd to others that others might want to learn from. So I just kind of wrote about what I knew. I always say, like, write what you know, and people will respond.
So was it the case that you were writing the book while you were working on contests or whatever it was, or writing, or did you do it after you had done it and say, oh, that would have been a great book? Or how did you organize your thoughts into a book is what I'm asking. That seems so overwhelming to me. And I know you have a book on it, so maybe I should just read that, but can you give us a little idea?
Yeah, so each book was different, actually. The book on contests, so that was my whole life in the making. I always entered contests. Like, if I went somewhere and they had one of those raffles, like, win a giant stuffed animal at Hallmark, or, write an essay and win a scholarship. Like, I would enter every single one of those that I saw. And I thought that was just something that everybody did, just like PayPal. I thought, oh, everybody has PayPal. Everybody enters contests all the time. And I found out people didn't. And I found that really, really weird. So I was 16 and I said, man, I guess people didn't grow up doing this. That's kind of weird. Well, let me show them why this is so cool and why they should do this too. So I wrote a book about it, and I actually wrote the book, in school during a class that I didn't particularly care for. Not my proudest thing, but it was a biomedical science class, and I didn't really care about the subject, or the teacher used to frustrate me, so I worked on the book at that point.
So you were just working on the book in class?
Yep. And like all my classmates knew, and they would just kind of chuckle, like, there she is. But I at that point, I knew I wasn't going to become a biomedical scientist, so that was how I spent my 10th grade biomedical science classes.
Great, man! In 10th grade, I was like going to raves and like smoking cigarettes in the bathroom. So it could be worse, is what I'm saying. So did you win these contests? Like, I'm intrigued about this whole contest thing.
Oh yeah, so I don't really enter them anymore. They're not the way that they used to be. But there was a time when magazines, like teen magazines and stuff, they used to have a lot of contests, and some of them were, for example, mailing contests. So the magazine or the magazine's website would have a thing like, win a pair of sunglasses by sending us your name, age, address, and phone number in a self-addressed stamped envelope. And my little trick was to always decorate the envelopes. And for some reason, people like decorate envelopes because I win a lot of those. I would lose more than I would win, but I would still win a lot. So maybe for every 10 contests I would enter, I would win one. And that added up. It was like a part-time job.
That's like 10%.
In middle school and high school. That was like one of my part-time kind of job things, because like I won a computer, I won scholarships, I won a lot of stuff. I won like 12 iPods, and my friends were like, hey, can you give me one? I'm like, no, I'm selling them on eBay.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so I wrote a book about that, because like to me it's just like, oh yeah, you guys must read these magazines, and you must see this stuff online too. Like, but I didn't realize like I was subscribed to all that stuff, so I just saw it. And yeah.
I have so many questions, but the one that just like came up right now was, how do you have the energy to do all of this? I mean, I think part of people not entering the contest, because it's like, what's the point? And so I wish there was an app where you could just automatically enter a contest for you.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't seem like it would work. But yeah, how do you have the energy and the dedication to stick with these things? Well, is it like a wiring thing or what?
It might be a little bit of a wiring thing, but I also think a lot of people don't enter contests. From what I understand, they think, oh, there's no way I'm going to win. But if they thought that there was a chance or a really high probability that they were going to win, I think they would be more likely to enter the contest. So since I won a few contests at a young age, so for example, there was this Hallmark contest when I was 10 years old where I went into Hallmark and they said, fill out this little thing and you could win our big stuffed dog. And I won it. And I thought, man, that was easy. I'm going to keep entering these things. These contests really work. Whereas other people I've talked to, they entered similar contests when they were young and they didn't win. So they think, oh, they're just scams. Nobody wins those things. So I think that because I had such a positive experience or many positive experiences like that at such a young age where I saw, wow, you actually can win. I was more likely to. It's kind of like if you went to work every day and you might have a possibility of not receiving a paycheck, you probably wouldn't work. But, if you go work and you receive a paycheck, then you're going to have the energy to work because you're going to get that reward.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Now, do you play the lottery?
No, that I don't. Because the probability of winning that is so low, and it's that I'm not into. Just like gambling, I'm not really a gambler. I like the free gambling opportunities.
Yeah. I have a confession. I actually I just got a new car, and money was a thing for me. So I looked up online and entered a bunch of contests to try to win a car. I did not win one that I know of, but my plan was to, if I want it, sell it and get another car.
Yeah. Well, that's the contest world has changed thanks to social media. So when I was in middle school entering these contests, it was really hosted through their websites and mail-in, and they don't really do mail-in or website contests as much now. It's mostly through social media, so it's a lot tougher to win. So that's why I abandoned contests a couple years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, what about the other books? You had a children's book, and then what was the other one?
Yeah, there children's.
You had three more that you published through, I think, Gen Z.
Well, yeah. No, well, actually, our first one was self-published. Then after that, I did the traditional publishing, which was just basically a memoir of.
A memoir of what?
Of my life from age like 5 through college, just kind of talking about things that I learned, but it was geared towards young adults. So it was kind of people in that age demographic. The things that you're going through are you're not alone.